Hey guys, and welcome to a legendary showdown between myself, a rubber duck RoR, leading my favourite dino boys up against Natwig and his treacherous scheming Skaven hordes. Traditionally, a pretty bad matchup for Lizardmen, but we have one or two more fancy tools now that we can bring to the table to try to even the odds, and I think some of the new units will help out this matchup somewhat. We'll have to see how we perform today. So let's hop in here and have a little look at the builds. For us, we have skink cohorts, and they're going to be the bread of this big old fat sandwich, which is made up of a juicy centre of 4 Saurus warriors. So 4 Saurus warriors in the middle, very dependable up against Skaven, can help drag down some larger creatures and easily overcome the majority of the Skaven ground forces. And then skink cohorts on the flanks to try to harass, push into enemy back line and get at those expensive weapon teams, because Skaven weapon teams are the bane of the dino's existence. In the front here, we do have some Chameleon Stalkers, one of the new units that the Lizardmen are getting from this DLC. And not only do they look freaking insane with the little feathers coming off, and I love the little, bird heads they have on their snouts, they do some pretty good burst damage, and my hope is that's going to enable them to break through the Skaven line really quickly, and they're relatively speedy, being skinks, so we can harass and hop on top of the enemy juicy inner elements of their build. They have poison attacks, precursor missile weapons, which are these little blow darts, and yeah, it's going to be good fun to see them in action. I haven't managed to make them work too well so far, but I think this is one of the matchups where I think maybe, just maybe, they perform really well. We do have Oxyotl leading our line. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with him by now. Fantastic at assassinating Skaven characters because they're relatively low HP, and the lower the HP the enemy has, the more damage Oxyotl will eventually do to them. He's coming fully kitted here today, and Skaven, very good at assassinating enemy characters, are going to have a hard time up against Oxyotl. Of course, can become sniped, stalked, unspottable, and all that good juicy stuff. Over on the far side, we do have the Pale Death, which is probably the coolest named unit in the entire game. I mean, maybe there's one or two more, but the Pale Death, I mean, come on. And that unit looks insane. The colour scheme of those kind of pale scales, making a beautiful little pattern down the line, are pretty awesome. Now, all round, Troglodons, I'm a big fan of them. I think the Skink Oracle Troglodon is going to be the most often picked, but the Pale Death does bring one or two cool little elements to the battlefield. So apart from having generally better stats, the Pale Death does also come in with Primeval Roar, which increases melee attack by 24, which may seem a bit odd to start with. Troglodons, for the most part, yes, they're big, beefy, they've got similar stats to Carnosaurs, though they do lack Frenzy as well as Anti-Large, which obviously cause them a few problems, but they have poison attacks, good stats all round. But for the most part, you want them shooting. That's where their damage really is. You can see a pretty ridiculous 1067 missile strength. They're so good at sniping out single entity monsters and characters. But I think there's some good synergy here. You can hide the Pale Death, for example, amongst Temple Guard or Star Chamber Guardians, buff them up while it shoots overhead, and he's going to be slinking down our flank today. I'm going to pause the battle here just because it gets underway quite quickly. I don't want you guys to miss anything. So up in the skies, we have triple Pterodon Riders with Fire Leech Bowlers and more Chameleon Stalkers as well, deployed right in the far side. This unit has quite a long trek to come back to the actual battle here. As for my opponent, he has Skaven Slaves in the front line, which is at this point tradition, I would say, for Skaven. Cheap, very uncheerful, and not too happy to be here, but they will put their lives on the line for their masters. In the central pocket, we do have some Plague Monks, backed up here by Eshin Triads, who are hiding in the trees. We have 2 units of them. Fantastic Anti-Large and Weeping Blades. Enables them to really do decent work to enemy dinosaurs. We also have the Council Guard in the back, Regiment of Renowned Storm Vermin, one of the best units in the Skaven roster, due to the fact they're unbreakable, which is so nice to have in a faction which has low leadership and all that kind of petty stuff. Here's Natty Bobu Sharpshooters as well in the central pocket, and I'm a big fan of this build simply for the fact he hasn't over-invested. I see so many people bring Warp Lightning Cannons, 3 Jezzails, loads of bombers, and then Pterodons kill them all and your day is kind of ruined or skinks get in there. He's going for a bit of a mix and match. We also have double Chieftain on foot, it would seem, which isn't something I see terribly often, coming in with that Glorious Guardian. And we have a Grey Seal of Plague, having an absolute whale of a time here on his mighty bell. Look at him go! He's a very happy bunny indeed. He is going to be coming in with Warpstone Scroll, Pestilent. Is that Birth or Breath? Breath, there we go. We have the dreaded 13th spell, Unholy Clamour, and Scorch. And there is a nice little skirmish contingent here of the Wolf Rats with Poison. We have 1, 2, 3, in fact, as well as double Gutter Runners. So they're going to be protecting their skirmishers. Now, this is one of the elements I think Chameleon Stalkers can actually be pretty good at. We haven't done it for this build. My opponent actually came up with the idea of running Chameleon Stalkers alongside Chameleon Skinks or Skink Skirmishers, and having them as a almost protector unit up against doggos, because you can see the, quite frankly, huge burst damage they are doing to these wolf rats, down to about half health and then following up with a charge. They have relatively decent melee stats with poison, should be good at taking down dogs, so this unit has been slightly overextended. There's a lot of wolf rats coming in to try to deal with them, but I think they've probably got it in the bag. Source Warriors are pushing up Skinks as well, sacrificing their lives just to absorb pressure from the gutter runners, and now the Pterodons are in good positions. We've dropped rocks down on this Eshin Triad unit, and we're going to be moving in to try and finish off the Natty Bobu Sharpshooters. Unfortunately for me, my opponent is a rather crafty character, coming back with the gutter runners and shooting up at the Pterodons, dragging them down. This is a really nice play, attempting to protect his Natty Bobu Sharpshooters. Chameleon Stalkers have engaged in the back lines, using up their precursor weapons to do some pretty solid burst damage onto the Council Guard. I'm not looking to kill them, but hopefully distract them, pull them apart, and buy time for the front line to really get in there and start chewing through that Skaven front line. The Pale Death has just been vibing out on the flank for now. He's a little bit scared of all the enemy missile pressure, so I'm going to be whipping him back around now, and he's going to be joining Oxotl in an assassination crew. Their attempt here, of course, is going to be on the Grey Seer of Plague. The other Chameleon Stalkers are slowly arriving. Skink Cults as well are starting to whip around the flanks, and Saurus are butchering the front lines with a fat Flock of Doom coming down, catching out here the Skaven Slaves as well as the Eshin Triads. Things are going really well on this right-hand flank, but there is big problems afoot. The dreaded 13th spell obliterates Saurus Warriors as Skaven are birthed into the world through carnage, blood, and death. And it's going to be the death of my Saurus Warriors here. They are wavering and not having a good time whatsoever. What was a good battle on this right-hand side has turned into a very bad one for me. Pale Death as well as Oxyotl are now sitting upon the Grey Seer, and these guys are doing some massive damage now. The Grey Seer is being bursted down here to about half health, and somehow my opponent has kept Natty Bobu Sharpshooters online. Luckily, we dodged a Scorch with our Saurus Warriors, and we're really trying to push and drive now as hard as possible into this back line, but some really nice breath attacks are keeping us at bay. Skaven Slaves being finished off here by a mixture of Skinks and Chameleon Stalkers. A lot of our air core has been finished off, but the Pale Death is stalking its opponent, and in the shadow of the realms, he does get his kills, and he is right now doing some great work. The Grey Seer is having to fall back now, down to just 1.4k HP. Natty Bobu's trying to return fire onto the Pale Death, but luckily it's not the biggest dino in the world, and a lot of the sharpshooters have already met their demise from the Pterodons. Saurus and Skink cohorts continue to push through here, trying to shut down this ranged core, though the Council Guard are everywhere on the battlefield right now. Protecting that back line, then pushing forward to intercept my little Skink boys and Saurus. And the Bobus should be able to escape and survive once more. Saurus Warriors are actually losing the grind fight due to that really well-placed dreaded 13th spell. Skink Priest does manage to get off a really nice Flock of Doom though, catching the Council Guard, which will hopefully aid the Saurus Warriors in their endeavour to pull them to pieces. The Grey Seer of Plague has broken at this point, really low HP now, down to 600. One problem with Troglodons is they don't have amazing range, which is obviously understandable because they do so much burst damage, and he's not going to be able to get his supper just yet. Oxyotl also is being forced off now, and the Plague Monks are in hot pursuit, and we really are starting to run out of troops quite badly. We have some Chameleon Stalkers and Skinks on this left-hand side, some relatively healthy Saurus pushing through, but we have 49 Saurus Warriors here. We need to try to save them at all costs. We cannot allow these Plague Monks to chase them off the battlefield, because that is a lot of resources that we're going to be needing in this main grindfest. The Pale Death is continuing to fire in. I think he is aiming at the Chieftains at the moment, and that's kind of been the job today of Oxyotl and the Pale Death. Aim at those single entities and try to finish them off. We do manage to get a pretty damn good Flock of Doom go down on the Plague Monks with the assistance here of the Skink Priest and Saurus Warriors. We're at least going to be able to buy time to allow these Saurus Warriors to rally, but at what cost? We may end up losing the Skink Priest here. Troglodon is going to be coming back into a combat role here and just whipping that tail back and forth, pushing over the Plague Monks, trying to break them up and save the Skink Priest and Saurus Warriors. But the Saurus Warriors are themselves running for their lives, and the Skink Priest is starting to look pretty beat up. Despite this, Balance Power loves us. That is due, of course, to the fact the Grey Seer is so low on HP. Chameleon Skinks are falling back at the moment, or Chameleon Stalkers, I should say. That's going to take a while to get used to, actually. Council Guard are in hot pursuit, so we're going to be trying to fall back and get to allied territory. You can see more Chameleon Stalkers hidden in the shadows at the moment. Oxyotl has managed to escape, but the poor little Skink Priest, unfortunately, is going to end up being a sacrificial lamb to the slaughter, we'll say. Cold-Blooded was popped on him just to try and keep him alive, so I can pop another Flock of Doom here, but alas, it was not quite enough. Command Stalkers throwing their bodies on the line here as we focus down those chieftains with the Pale Death and Oxyotl. And the battle is going pretty badly for us right now. But one thing we do have going for us is a big terror-causing monster, and the fact the Grey Seer is so low health. And I think the Pale Death has just about caught the scent, which is probably quite smelly, of this Grey Seer of Plague, and he is on the hunt. You can see my opponent desperately pulling back wolf rats, trying to pull back these Skaven slaves. Anything possible to stop the Pale Death emerging and slaughtering the Grey Seer, but we are bounding over. Elsewhere, Oxyotl was just trying to snipe out the enemy characters, Saurus Warriors as well as Skink Cohort. Going to be used to just try to clear up Skaven slaves and hold back the tide of kind of a death blob that has formed of the Skaven troops. Wolf Rats of Poison do manage to engage with us, so we charge them and to terrify them away, but no! We're out of control. We do rampage, which is a disaster right now, but luckily we have a cold-blooded raring and ready to go. Oxyotl just about in range. That's an insane range on that spell, and it's fantastic job that we managed to do that, because my opponent does prop Storm Vermin summon down once again, the dreaded 13th spell, and if the Pale Death was rampaging right now, he would be rampaging into 120 Storm Vermin and certainly getting slaughtered. But he's not out of the jungle just yet. Wolf Rats do surround him, poisoning him, slowing him down, trying to pin him in place for the Storm Vermin to catch up, but we managed to shatter them just about in time, and once again we will continue our hot pursuit of the Grey Seer of Plague. In the distance, you can see Saurus Warriors are starting to get butted up and finished off. Oxyotl is continuing to lay in shots as they pit their lives on the line. Just some Stalkers fighting over there as well. We're hopping on the Grey Seer here, trying our best. Primeval Roar has gone down. I did kind of forget to use this buff spell during the majority of the battle. We managed to remember it here right for these key moments as the Storm Vermin are surrounding us and doing some really nice damage. We're kind of getting dragged down here, trying to force ourselves onto the Grey Seer of Plague and also avoid the Storm Vermin at the same time. At the end of the day, they are a summon and will eventually disappear. Balance of power is massively at the moment in my opponent's favour. Grey Seer, though, is getting hunted down by Oxyotl, who's doing some good work. Down to just 85 HP. The Pale Death comes for you, turning around and vomiting death into the universe once more. Poor little Grey Seer does indeed go down, and with that balance power comes slightly more even again, but it is slightly against us at the moment. Looks like some other units have just finally been shattered and forced off. Oxyotl does remain firm though, firing in, trying to hit those chieftains. He's a very good sniping character, can sometimes suffer, of course, being so low to the ground up against being obstructed and not being able to see units. But luckily, because it's a blowpipe and a gun, it kind of laces up and over the enemy. So he's very good in his sniping role. We're going to be falling back with him now as the Feral Troglodon is, or the Regiment Renowned Feral Troglodon is firing some shots in, trying to use up our ammunition here. And we're actually aiming for the Council Guard because there's 44 of them and they will gobble up the Pale Death like no tomorrow. Gut Runners do manage to charge in, and we might have to counter-charge them in a second to try and get them off the field. But one shot from Oxyotl there killed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Storm Vermin all lined up in a row there, getting that beautiful shot down the flank, which is where you want these type of missiles to go. Pale Death is going to ignore the Council Guard where possible and hunt down these chieftains. He's an assassin at heart, and he's really gunning now for the one that is routing, trying to finish him off. And that's going to buy more and more time for Oxyotl just to shoot in at this other chieftain, who does take a few shots to the face, though Gutter Runners as well as Plague Monks have rallied once more to the cries of these chieftains to get back there, get back into the fight and deal with these dino boys. Balance power is dead even at the moment. The Pale Death does launch into combat. It's got a glorious hissing sound as it does gobble up and slice some of these Plague Monks in half. Council Guard, though, going to be a pain in the butt. There is only 28 of them left. A lot of these Skaven troops are running, simply being terrified and shattering from the battlefield, and the balance of power just starts booming and beaming in my direction, which I love. I absolutely love, of course, at this moment. Oxyotl should be able to finish off this chieftain, down to 448 health. I'm actually going to be dragging him back, it seems, to try to help out the Pale Death. He's out of control right now. I don't have a cold-blooded to pop on him, and he's going to have to stick and fight out with the Council Guard. And again, still 26 unbreakable anti-large rat boys. They're doing some pretty good work on the Pale Death at the moment, down to just 1,100 HP. Gutter Runners coming in here, applying poison as well, and the chieftains rallying to the cries. We are just about going to be able to pop, it seems, a cold-blooded on him to keep him alive, and in return, he shall do a primeval roar and come back with a vengeance after that chieftain, who once again is terror routed. Now, it should be noted, Primeval RoR only recharges in combat, I believe, so he does have to be fighting in the thick of it to pop that ability multiple times throughout the battle. He is still hunting down the chieftain, trying to finish him off where possible. Oxyotl, as well as his Count's Guard, just going toe-to-toe. We do see a lovely backflip animation there as he goes full kind of samurai ninja warrior style there, and really does slaughter some of the Council Guard. He is such a cool little ninja assassin, Oxyotl. I absolutely love him. The Pale Death does manage to charge in onto the Council Guard, down to just 17 models here, but he is routed, he's exhausted, he's tired, he's done 91 kills, his stomach is quite full with the rotting corpses of Skaven. That's going to give you a little bit of an upset tummy, so he's running for his life. Bounce powder is heavily in our favour, because Oxyotl, though not designed for melee, still has 50 melee attack and 45 melee defense, and there's really not that much left for Skaven, but it's still kind of close. I was getting a little nervous in the game that we'd lost this one, with the Gutter Runners slinking into battle as well. Our stats are being neutered a little bit here, and the Council Guard, only 8 models left, but Plague Monks really are big damage dealers, and you can see Oxyotl's health starting to drop quite badly there. He is a squishy boy, and he is whipping around, though, doing some pretty cool attack animations. It looks like some of these troops, yeah, it looks like the skirmishers are running for their lives. Plague Monks also break, and I think army losses came in for us at the correct time. Though there are still some unbreakable Skaven to deal with, now I can rest. I'm feeling confident once more, and the Count's Guard, down to just 5 models, don't really stand such a good chance here up against arguably the greatest hide-and-seeker of all time. And he's dealt with Chaos Gods, Chaos Greater Demons, as well as living with Nakai for a considerably long time. I don't think the Count's Guard are going to cause him too much problems, though they're putting up a pretty good fight here. We still have 1,376 HP, and the Count's Guard 3 go down with 1 shot, and that is going to be game. Such a close fight, though, coming down literally just to the last skinky, but Oxyotl proving he is a force to be reckoned with, and I really do think he's going to be a really nice addition to the Lizardmen forces. I think all-round Mazdamundi still will be the most common and competitive pick you will see, but bringing Oxyotl really does open up your options. He's a very unique lord, brings in loads of skirmish potential, sniping potential, as well as allowing you to bring something like a Skink Oracle, for example, which I think is very powerful. A Pyrrhic victory, though, we only just managed to scrape that one out. Massive shout out to Natwig. We had some really fun games. You're probably going to see 1 or 2 up on the channel as well in the future. If you ever see him on Quick Battles or anything, say hello to him. Really lovely dude. And put up a really good fight with the Skaven. One thing you may have noticed, by the way, I'm just going to cover quickly before we get into the damage dealt and damage value. There are new unit cards for, I believe, the last 2 DLCs, maybe. Definitely the last one, but we can see like the Wolf Rats have got new unit cards. And I may even do a video, just like a 10-second video showing off the new unit cards, because they look phenomenal. But particularly the Wood Elf ones they've done on the Zotes as well as the Blade Singers, I am a big fan. But again, well played to our opponent there, just a Pyrrhic victory. Me and Natwig were going back and forth, him getting some victories, me getting some victories, and that's when you know you've got some good games on your hands. We will get to the damage dealt and damage value and kills of all the units in just a second, but if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a big fat thumbs up and subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. We're getting very close to the release of the DLC, and when that happens, I'm going to be doing King of the Hills, Best of Sevens, a load of live streams, because I've not really been able to do any for a little while. Due to the fact that I've been on a different patch than people, so I'm really excited to get back doing some live streams, as I know you guys enjoy them quite a lot as well. Please do comment down below what you thought of the battle and the units. Hopefully you guys enjoyed me showing off the Pale Death. He was one of your suggestions of what you wanted to see. And the next video will probably cover the Regiment of Renown Carnosaur as well, because I know a lot of people did want to see him in action. So yeah, comment down below. If you've got nothing to say, feel free to just say quack to me. I really do enjoy reading all the comments. They're one of the main factors of inspiring me to keep doing this and keep making videos. It's really lovely when you see people enjoying your work. It does kind of motivate you to do more and more, and hopefully get better and better as well at casting. There are links down below in the description to my Patreon if you'd like to support the channel, Games Planet, my account on Games Planet I should say, if you want to get this DLC at a slightly reduced rate, or Total War Warhammer free pre-order pretty much any game on Steam, you can do it through there. You get a little bit of a discount, which is quite nice of course, and it is all supported by CA, don't worry. There's also a link down below to my Discord if you'd like to submit replays. I haven't been able to review any recently. Again, I'm on a different patch, and that does mess up the replays slightly, but obviously I will be taking replays in the future. You can keep up to date with events I host, tournaments, King of the Hills, chill out with a load of cool people, and definitely see a ton of pictures of ducks, because we do have a duck bot in Discord, which is awfully a lot of fun. But anyway, on to the real reason we're here, the damage dealt and damage value. Oxyotl used up all of his ammunition, which is no small feat. He has 50 ammo. That's really hard to use up all your ammo. 234 kills. He was 316 no-scoping Storm Vermin, getting triple headshots. He was really pulling it out of the bag today with 2,613 damage value, which is fantastic for his cost. 13k damage dealt, and I think he's going to be quite often picked up against Skaven. Very hard for them to deal with. They can't see him. Can't shut him down, particularly the typical way of Skaven playing, of just sitting back and shooting Lizardmen. And he's good at taking down all their characters. This King Place the Beast did good with his Flock of Doom, 688 damage value. Unfortunately, at one point was kind of pushed in to the meat grinder to save Oxyotl, but he did a good job. Skinks obviously just adding more width, trying to push into the enemy back line, but how did the Stalkers fare? Well, they're about 650 gold, I think, off the top of my head, 675 maybe, roughly in that ballpark, kind of between Skinks and Saurus Warriors. They didn't fare too terribly. I mean, these two units didn't pay for themselves, 470 and 435 damage value. The other one did, though, 711 and 100 kills, which is good work. I don't think we used them the best here, and I don't know if this is going to be the perfect matchup for them. Although I can certainly see it working, but then combined with Chameleon Skinks or Skink Skirmishers, which was a Natwig suggestion, I think would work really well, actually. Your dogs rush out to try and devour them up, and these guys will comfortably beat back doggos any day of the week. Saurus Warriors across the board were a bit of a mixed bag, not really getting much damage value, but just chewing through the meat grinder, 129, 100 kills, all that good stuff. Totem Riders did a good job as well, not paying for themselves, but just being annoying, forcing my opponent to pull back his Gutter Runners and protect his Natty Bobos, and that allowed us to grind out the front fight. One of the MVPs, though, was definitely the Pale Death, the Regiment of Renown Feral Troglodon. 2,456 damage value. That's the good stuff. 8,732 damage dealt and 91 kills. Hunting down the enemy leadership and, quite frankly, carrying us to victory in the end game, because I think we were certainly on the back foot in the mid stages or the later stages of the battle. But due to some late game management, finishing off the enemy general, tear out a lot of enemy troops, protecting our lord, we just about managed to squeeze our way to victory there. Now, Feral Troglodons and the Pale Death, the Regiment of Renown, certainly won't be seen as much as the Skink Oracle, but if you want to bring a Slann, which is still amazing, or a Lord Mazdamundi, then you'll start to see the Feral Troglodons come into action, and the Pale Death may work really well in box builds, just buffing up Temple Guard who protect it, while it shoots at the big enemies. I'll certainly have to try it out. I think Anticity played around with it in our best of 7 we had on the channel just the other day, actually, up against Ice Power, but we'll have to see how it performs. As for Natwig's troops, the Skaven forces, I'm actually a big fan of this build just because it's a little bit off meta, and that can certainly catch people off guard. Like the Skinks, they could get into the back line, but there wasn't much there for them to devour. 1.2 damage value on the Greys here is very impressive, considering how quickly we managed to shut him down and kind of push him to the back of the board. The Chieftains, unfortunately, I think Chieftains on foot, they just didn't bring enough. They were there to protect the Greyseer, but once he was forced off by range, they then kind of struggled a little bit. But they did manage to rally the troops. Eshin tried to, unfortunately, biting the bullet early on to a lot of pressure. Those Plague Monks, though, 1,105 damage value, and the Council Guard, 1,440, despite being attacked there by the Stalkers early on. Really good play by them, as well as these Gutter Runners. Man, they were so annoying to deal with. 1,000 and 1,400 damage value apiece. Hey, Boboos, 900, certainly not too shabby. And unfortunately, the Wolves, I mean, 2 units just got decimated early on by the Stalkers. 1 unit, however, did manage to do quite good work, surviving a little bit longer than their more feral brethren. 1,032 damage value, 174 kills, fantastic performance. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.